told Rabbi Brudny, I thought he was the keynote. He says, well, it depends how long you speak. Then we'll figure out who the keynote was. I was looking at the clock. My dear friend Rav Brudny Shlita talked about the Anhol of the yeshiva. He talked about the greatness of Waterbury. I'm going to talk about you, because that's why you're here. It's not just activating the mechanchim in how to love the children, it's activating the parents how to parent. 2 years ago, at the Aguda convention, Rosh Yeshiva, and the Menal, and Yedidi v'Chavivi Agon Rav Brudny Shlita, and Achai v'Rei, the keynote session was about bringing back kids OTD off the derech. And it was a very controversial event. There were about 30 or 40 people that had left Yiddishkeit, that were monitoring every word that would be said. There were meetings with Reb Chaim David Zwiebel and members of the Aguda as to how this would go down. And there was a lot of tension in the room. And I sent over an insight of a mashpia from Yerushalayim. Ramutta Frank. There is a tchina and bakasha that was the purview of the Noshim Tzidkaniyos, written al pi Kabbalah, that men never knew of. Until a Rebbe in Waterbury Yeshiva Ktana, Rabbi Baruch Levine, he was Machader Shanigin V'Zakeni Lagadel. And it's based on Pi Kabbalah. And the highlight, at least to the Niggin, Umeirim Esavavailam, the Noshim Tzidkaniyos for 500 years plus have shed copious tears. I want children who are Meir the Olam B'Torah. And they continue, Uvemasim Tovim, Uvechol Meleches Avodas Haborei. Freklemutta Frank, Teure, Teure, Teure. It's the Chanarishkeit. They should be davening that their children should be Gedola Yisrael. Umeirim es Oil B'Torah. What's there after Torah? Now, weiss the Chais, over 500 years ago, the Mechaber of this Tchina, that the Noshim Tzedkaniyos have said for over a half millennium, realized it via Tkufa called Hey Tov Shinai in Zion 2017. And the mothers would cry that their children should be the next Rebbe Kivega, the next Rebbe Shmuel Brudny Zatzal, who I was zeicha to live on the same block and eating the sukkah together, the next Samirov. But it's not always going to happen. And maybe, just maybe, the child doesn't have nafshei choshka b'Torah to the nth degree that he's going to vaksais in Adam Gadol in Torah. So they continue. Rabbeinu Shalom, if somehow he doesn't have a complete geschmack in Shmaitze, in the Shev Shmaitze, in the Avnei Meluyim, in the Kseis HaChoshen, let him continue illuminating the world with Maisim Tovim. And if even not that, Kol Meleches Avodas Haborei. Let him join Chaverim. Let him change a flat tire. Let him put on a reitel bindel. Let him say 10 kapitlach tilim after davening. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes to connect him to the Rabbeinu Shalom and to his Torah and to his mitzvahs. That was then. This is a totally different evening. This is preemptive. This is encouraging and inspiring b'siyata d'shmaya. How do we keep our children steiging in Torah and in mitzvahs? Children, teenagers, middle age. So I received a phone call. And this woman told me that she was there for that session. She was there for that keynote. And she had a problem with 2 of her kids. They weren't developing as she had envisioned. She had 9 children, each one a bigger Ilui than the next or Iluyata, but these 2, it just wasn't happening. So what she got from this was to retool and to daven that her children should connect to the Rabbeinu Shalom through Torah, through Masim Tovim, Kol Meleches Avodas Haborei. This is what she told me. That to these kids changed. That's the power that parents have. It's not just once there's an issue to deal with it, but preemptively to be able to find the greatness in every child, kefi mahalaloi or mahalallah, to nurture it and to bring it out to the light of day, so that this child sings the praises of the Rabbeinu Shalom in their own way. Avada mit Torah, and avada mit tefillah, and avada mit chesed. But you got to realize that there's gold in them thar hills. And every one of your children, you have the potential to parent. It doesn't come automatically just because you gave birth to the kid. Boom, you're a parent. Gepakt and gemuzzled. The Briskerov says a legendary vart. Rosh Yeshiva Shlita brought out. Vishinantam levanecha eila talmidim. So why doesn't it say Vishinantam letalmidecha? Said the Briskerov maybe 70 years ago, you talk to the average Maggid Shir about his Shir. And he spends a half an hour talking about the 5 boys that are Iluyim. They know Shas, Bavli, Yerushalmi, the Mechadish Chedushim. And maybe 5 minutes about the Beinani. And about the 5 that are unreachable, unsalvageable, a shling up at Medrai Sekunda. 3 seconds. But talk to a parent about his 9 children. And the first one they talk about is the one that's zigging instead of zagging. The one that isn't connected. The one that's disenfranchised. The one they're struggling with. They'll spend 2 hours talking about that child. Elu HaTalmidim means that a Rebbe has to parent every child as if it's his child. And a parent has to parent every child as if it's a Talmud. Because like the Rosh Yeshiva said, the Messiah of Torah is a partnership. And it's a chiyuv on parents. And Rav Pam once told us that, Sal, at an asifa of Rabbanim, someone asked that a balabos had a seder halimud at night, an extra night seder. And it was a question of taking another job to pay schar limud full tuition, or a partial scholarship, and to learn. And Rav Pam said, your chiyuv is to teach your children Torah. And if you hire a surrogate, you got to take care of him before you take care of yourself. So don't learn night seder, take an extra job to pay schar limud. That's how Rav Pam paskind. There might be chalukei deis, but it gives us an understanding as to the chiyuv as parents to be mechanech our children. I had a Rebbe. More and I go to Rafal Shmuel Birnbaum Zechet Tzadik the Kodesh Levracha. He was my Rebbe, he was my father. In fact, beyond that, Avi, Rashi says, Avi, Imi. That the ultimate Rebbe is a father and a mother. He was my father and my mother. And at his hesped that I said over him, I mentioned an insight for a Moshe Soloveitchik Zatzal. We all are familiar with the words in Shir HaShirim, Ani l'doidi v'doidi li. I am to the Rabbeinu Shalom and he is to me. But there's another pasuk. Doidi li v'ani loi haroya b'asheishanim. It starts there with Hashem, who's a roya b'asheishanim. For Moshe Soloveitchik Zatzal, Rosh Yeshiva of Switzerland, what does it mean to be a roya, a shepherd with sheishanim? He explained, there's a roya b'koil with a booming voice. When the errant sheep are off the path, he gets them back by screaming. There's a roya b'makel. He has a staff, and he hits them, nips them to get back. There's a roya b'kelev with a sheep's dog. But then there's a roya b'asheishanim. The fragrance of Kiddush, the fragrance of the mitzvahs of Torah causes the sheep never to veer from the path. And if yes, they smell the fragrance, the aroma, and they come right back. That to me was the embodiment of Shmuel Birnbaum. and all the Rosh Yeshivas and Rabbanim and Gedolim and Talmidei Chachamim of Klal Yisrael. And we have to become Royim B'Sheishanim. How do you make Kiddush? My Rebbetzin Morabela was a nursery school teacher for many, many years. In the words of the legendary Rav Nochem Zev Dessler Zatzal, a mechaneches b'chesed elyon. That's what he said by my vort a while ago. Morabela is a mechaneches b'chesed elyon. So she has a Shabbos party like everybody else. They used to dress up with one of my old hats. In the old days, it was the down brim hat. And a tie, nearly strangle themselves. The boys, the girls would put on a tichel. And they would feign as if they're lighting Shabbos candles. And the boy would make Kiddush, lift up the bech of the 3-4-year-old. And each child made Kiddush the way his father made Kiddush. Some stood, some sat. Our minhag is to stand and to sit. A Litvish Arov in a Nusach Sfard Shul. I always tied it on my Olam, by you, by us, in the Litta. Vidui was Nitshayach, Vidui was Slichis, Vidui was Yom Kippur. And here every Montag and Donishtik, twice a day, they took a whole fun out of Vidui. Uncle Panim. So our minhag is to stand and to sit. So there was another child in a different nursery school, not in Morabela's, that made Kiddush as follows. Picked up the becha and said, "Boy, is this a tough week? What an impossible economy. Do it to them before they do it to you. Because that's how his father made Kiddush. I said it over in Stolen. And the Stolen young man told me his wife was also a Ganenet, a nursery school teacher. And the children were making Kiddush, and this little boy picked up the becha and said, "Mommy, I want to thank you for preparing such a delicious meal. Kinderlach, thank you for setting the table, for not fighting, for looking scrub for Shabbos. How do you want your children to make Kiddush? How do you want them to make Kiddush? The way you made Kiddush. You should excuse me, I'm still an out-of-towner. So even though I grew up in Flatbush, the same block as Rav Shmuel Brudny, and Rav Elia Brudny, truth be known, out tails out of school, used to pick me up from the bus stop with his sister Basi on King's Highway when I came home from Mishma. He picked her up when she was coming from school, and he used to walk us home. Al Kopanim, I took a hiatus for a number of years in Cleveland and 19 years in Minneapolis. But a Kiddush in Minneapolis in a shul was a Kiddush. In my father's Atzel shul in Bensonhurst, nobody put anything on the table in his plate until the rabbi made Kiddush. Simple people in Bensonhurst. In Minnie, everybody knew you didn't eat till the Rav made Kiddush. And we could have hundreds of people at a Kiddush. And it could be in the Yeshiva Tana with all kinds of people from the neighborhood, everybody knew. Unfortunately, most of the deluxe events that I'm zeichet to be privileged to attend, 5 or 6 on Shabbos, it's a feeding frenzy. It's a 4-forker. Pashit Gered, you count the numbers of forks. Different kinds of herrings, salami bar. It's mamish gewaldig. Where's the Kiddush? Das heißt Kiddush. Das is a Kiddush. Kiddush means you're elevating. You're taking the gashmias, the elixir of life, the wine, and you mekadesh Shabbos al yayin, because yayin is samach levav ena, should show the celebration of Kiddush, not making Kiddush to drink the $130 bottle of wine, but getting the $130 bottle of wine to be able to make Kiddush. Is that how we're making Kiddush? That's how that child made Kiddush, and that's how the other child made Kiddush. Rav Elia touched upon a very important point, which we have to face the reality. If you're here tonight, it's because this is the Chag HaChinuch of Chanukah. And you're not just here to pay tribute to the legendary yeshiva of Waterbury, the Rosh Yeshiva Shliba the Menayel, and of course my good friend who put this all together, Rabbi Lazerson. You're here because you're interested in renewal, in inauguration, in taking it to the next level, in parenting. It's a difficult door. Yankov Avinu makes a startling declaration. I'm going to go see my child before I die. And he declares, I'm going to go see Yosef Atzadik before I die. But of course, once Yankov passes away, he can't see Yosef. So he answered based on what the Rabbi Chonon Zatzal Hashem Kim Domi told the Bochum Baranovich. Chapta Reinet. Run and go see the Chofetz Chaim in Radin. Because in this world you could see the Chofetz Chaim. But in Yeneveld, where they have the true haracha, the value of the Chofetz Chaim, you won't be allowed in his mechitzas and his environs. Said Rav Shmuel Birnbaum Zatzal, the Masmer Ador. He said, of course, Yankov Avinu was the Bechir Ovis. Ish Tom Yeshiv Holam, constantly learning Torah. He lived Torah, he breathed Torah, he slept Torah. But Yosef is called Yosef HaTzadik. He faced the most difficult Nisayan. According to the Medrash, Eishes Peitifar and the Ha'enteke Palsha, more difficult than all the Nisyanis of Avram Avinu, Yitzchak, and Yaakov combined. And according to another Medrash, for 2 years she comes down to the prison and says, I'm your ticket out of here. Vayimoy, he's Yosef HaTzadik. Said Yankov Avinu, Elech Verena B'Terem Amos, because in Yenevelt, when they know what it means to be an Omer ben Nisayan, I may not be able to see my son. I don't say the Chiddush. Rabbi Shmuel Birnbaum said the Chiddush. Our door, you're raising gold, silver, platinum. These are children that have every Nisayan thrown at them. And they still learn, and they daven tefillah b'tzibur. And they're proud of the Yiddishkeit. And this kibbut of aim. What an incredible door. If we have it, we can deal with it. I was talking to Rabbi Yerucham Olshin at a chasna Thursday night, or a Sheshiva Shlita. He said, there's no competition anymore. I'm sorry, it was Rabbi David Shustel. There's no competition. Absolutely no competition. If you live a life of Torah, there is no competition. Now, Rav Elia Brudley, myself, the Rabbanim, the Rosh Hashivas, Rav Kaufman, Rav Kalish, all of us, thousands of us, all know that it's impossible out there. And the Nisyonis are impossible for any family, whatever community. But we also know that it's vapor. It's completely empty. When a kid or a family or a husband or wife comes to their senses, all of those things, the alcohol, the drugs, it is vapor. It is nothing. It's zero. There really is no competition to the Torah Kedosha. There is no competition from a chabur or a vad, from a rashiv or a rov. There's no competition. But you have to show your child there's no competition. Tongue in cheek, I'm going to say this. I was hoping not to, but I got no choice. I received an invitation, forwarded to me, and then the chutzpah to send it to me, forwarded to me by a Rosh Hashiva and a Rav. The ultimate evening of luxury and entertainment. Texas Hold'em charity tournament to benefit, I'm not going to say which institution. Do you hear what's going on over here? They're talking about, I'm not going to read the whole thing, they're talking about poker. They're talking about having this in Manhattan, a luxury car place, which I'm not going to name because I don't want to get sued. And there's an evening dedicated to high-stakes, Texas, no-hold gambling. So the Olam is getting together to gamble, not an addiction, to save kids that are off the D from their addiction. Are we push it mishugah? Look at Rabbi Brudney's face. Are we push it crazy? Have we lost all sense? I don't care if it's at the skama of the Charedis and every Rav in Flatbush, Borough, Williamsburg, and Muncie. We've got to be out of our minds. Rav Shimon Galai is a big tzad. Rav Shimon Galai, I know very well. And somebody asked me recently, I was at a chasna with Rav Shimon Galai Shlita Is he a makubal? I said, I don't know. You got to be a makubal to know a makubal. But I do know that he's makubal in Shemayim. I know that his tefillas and his brochas and his sitkis and his chesed and his Torah is makubal in Shemayim. Rabbi Shimon Galai told me that people have to focus on their kids. Even in the Narishkeiten. Even if it's shtusim. But Rabbi Sai and Rabbi Tzanai Sai, let's not teach our children to focus on our Narishkeit, on our shtusim. We got to live up. We got to parent. We have to show by example. What are we running to? What are we running from? What's important in our lives? What do we escape? The Kelev Hayam is a question in the Gemara. Is it a sea dog? Is it a mammal? Is it amphibious? The Gemara says, where does it run? Where does it escape to? If it dives in the water, it's ocean. It's seafaring. If it runs on dry land, then that's exactly what it is. Where do we run to? Do we run to shiurim? Are the ladies looking to grow and steig and sneas and other inyonim and chesed? And of course the ones here are the husbands running to shiurim? Or is there pushback that the Rebbe says gewaldige things about learning and the father's doing what he's doing, completely oblivious, just rushing to get to that shalom to get to sleep, and he's tired of these same questions that every kid talks about. What parsha is it? What parsha do you think it is? Are you showing excitement as you would for the No Hold'em Texas tournament? And we can take back the reins. We're royals. That's why you're here tonight. That's what we heard from Rav Elia, Rabbi Kaufman, Rabbi Kalish. It's all about parenting. I said to Rav Galai a word which I hold as emes kamite. Vayav Yitzchak as Esav kitzayid befiv. Yitzchak loves Esav because he gives him barbecue. Does that make sense to you? You understand this? Yitzchak Avinu was an Oyla Tmima. He never left Eretz Yisrael. So this Korban Oyla loves Esav because he gives him meat? Because he gives him ribeye? You have to put that snacht in a different place, I would suggest. Vayav Yitzchak as Esav. What's the raya? Kitzayid befiv. He loved him. And the proof is he found commonality with him. I only eat your meat. With Yankov Avinu, it was the Shmaitza and Reb Kivega. But with Esav, after a while, that didn't work. So he found something that's kosher to be in common with his child. Vayev Yitzchak as Esav. What's the rai? He loved him. Kitzayid befiv. I'm only eating your meat. I'm always eating your meat. Find commonality, whatever it might be. If it's not a piece of Gemara, it's Tanakh. If it's not Tanakh, it's a Ma'aseh Chesed. Look at the legendary organizations in New York. An organization that takes care of 500 Rabbeim. And these people bring their children on the day of to pack the vans of the Rabbeim with wine and matzahs and meat and fish and everything else. What's your gishmak in life? What are you excited about? How do you make Kiddush? In Minneapolis, we had a slight problem with tznius. The last person in the world that should talk about tznius is the Rav. It's a very hard thing to talk about. I've discussed with many of my colleagues here, Choshev Rabbanim, Rosh Yeshiva, try different things. It's a very hard thing for a man to talk about tznius. 16 different things were tried, Kaili Galite, moving to the neighborhood, all kinds of zachen, and there were a couple of holdouts. Good Choshev ladies, for whatever reason, they didn't realize they were, let's call them trendy, probably provocative. You know who changed them? Their daughters. Their daughters in high school and coming back from seminaries, Ma, you can't wear that. Ma, you can't wear that. And Ma stopped wearing it. But why are the children the parents? We have to parent. One said, Pshat, Moltcha Oymein es Hadassah. What does Oymein mean? He was her guardian, foster dad. Oymein is Miloshin Emunah. You have to have faith in your child. As all said before, you have to believe in your child. They're exquisite, they're incredible, and like Rav Elia said, they can all be Gedolei Yisrael, but you got to believe that they can become Gedolei Yisrael. Under all conditions, it's very challenging once Chalila Al Tiftach, the ones in this room are looking to find positive ways to parent. Ashreichem b'toiv lochem. What a schutz to be in the same room as parents that really care. That parents are passionate about the Yiddishkeit and want to transmit it in partnership with the yeshiva to their children. But it only happens if you're passionate. I'm going to conclude with this story. And probably the Noshim Tzidkanias, that don't yet outnumber the men, but there are a lot of Noshim Tzidkanias there, will probably get it more than the men. So you'll wait for them to respond and you'll see how to respond. The Iron Lady, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, was once invited to a state dinner attended by the Queen of England. Queen Elizabeth in Buckingham Palace, 2,000 people invited. And Margaret Thatcher is announced. Your Majesty, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, and her schlepper husband Geoffrey, whatever his name is. And they walk in, and 2,000 sets of eyes stop what they're doing. The glasses stop clinking, the plates stop clattering, and they look at Margaret Thatcher with loathsome hatred, venomous, seething hatred. Because unbeknownst to Margaret Thatcher, she wore the exact same black Prada outfit as the Queen of England. Hagam lichbaish es amalke imi babois. A chutzpah, a commoner, up usurping the royal house of Windsor. Like the chronology of David, one of the legends of Klal Yisrael, sitting here with us. I think his son-in-law, Eliezer, learned in Waterbury. Al Kopanim, so there was a feeding frenzy, the media the next day. A commoner usurping the royal house of Windsor, they got Princess Di for that. They didn't commonistic, they do it to themselves. The next day, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher wrote a letter of apology to the Queen of England. That very same day, she received a letter from Her Royal Majesty's Royal Secretary. Dear Mrs. Thatcher, the Queen of England is not in the habit of noticing what other people are wearing. Have a nice day. You're not even a blip on the radar screen. This is the Queen of England, the Royal House of Windsor. That's how we have to be mechanech our children. We're the royals, said to say to British nationals, but the sun has set on the British Empire. A few years ago, there was a dedication of a park in Lower Manhattan, near the site of Ground Level Zero, given by Great Britain in honor of the British nationals that were killed in 9/11. It was a swelteringly hot day in New York, 100 degrees plus, and most of the people didn't bother getting dressed, if you know my drift, that day. But there was one individual who was dressed with a skirt below her knees, and her elbows were covered. Her hair was covered with a hat, and she was wearing white gloves. And she strode purposefully to the podium, not breaking a bead of sweat, and she did not shorten her remarks by a minute. It was the Queen of England. The Queen of England wears her white gloves when she walks out of the palace and will not shake a commoner's hand without wearing the gloves. The Queen of England's entire year is planned out to the day. March 15th, 2018, she's flying to Zimbabwe, the former colony of Rhodesia, walking down onto the tarmac, taking the flowers from the girl to the left in the yellow paisley dress, getting back on the plane, flying to Canada for a ribbon-cutting ceremony in Manitoba for a children's hospital. Every day is planned out. She has a royal grenadier that plays the bagpipes as she eats breakfast, wherever she may be. Summer, winter, snow, hail, sleet, Tisha B'Av, Yom Kippur, he's playing the bagpipes. Don't you realize we're the royals? Our entire year is planned. On Chanukah, we light Neiros, Halacha Gebeis Hillel, Ches Neiros, Halacha Gebeis Hillel, Chanukah. Ma'aseh V'Hailach. And on Purim, we'll read the Megillah and eat and Jay with the Gerage. And on Pesach, it's Matzah. And on Tisha B'Av, we fast. We are the royals. And you are the royals. Because you're interested in the most important commodity that Klal Yisrael has. Chinuch al pi ha-Torah ha-Kedosha. The Ponevezh Rav Zatzal said after the war, rebuilding Ponevezh in Bnei Brak, an orphan, a Yosem, one who has no parents. An orphan nation, and one who has no children. We are not Yisayimim. We have wonderful parents, incredible yeshivas, gewaldige Rosh Yeshiva, Talmidei Chachomim, Gaonim, Rabbonim, Tzadikim, Tzadikim Lach, Tzadikim, alle Sultan Tzadikim, that have one thing in mind, to parent and to be mechanech the future dar. It's a glorious future. Hang on for the ride. Daven, 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 daven. We'll be zeicher b'siyata d'shmai t'dereshim v'rochem in the greatest simcha b'vi.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.